With a massive jump in cap space and a million ELCs on the books, the Sharks have one of the best cap situations in the NHL. We dive into what their cap sheet looks like going into the offseason.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be digging into the Sharks cap sheet. Going to be looking at how much cap space that they have, who's expected to be on the roster next season, who needs a new contract, and probably the most important thing, how much cap space does Mike Grier, one, have to spend this offseason, and two, how much money can he spend? So let us start out by kind of looking at a wide, big variety. I don't know if you want to call it 35,000 mile view, or we're gonna look at where the Sharks are currently at right now with their cap space. So just as a reminder, the Sharks, or the NHL, announced, right, the cap is going to be going up over the next couple seasons. For the 25-26 season, it is expected to be the ceiling of $95.5 million and the lower limit of $70.6 million. So again, the ceiling is how much you can spend up to that amount, and the limit is the lower limit is how much you must spend. Right? We don't want any Oakland A's or or Tampa Bay Rays here, where you spend the very, very, very minimum that you possibly can, or spend way below everyone else. Like, this is part of the CBA where you have to spend a minimum amount and you have to spend a maximum amount here. So we'll get into that a little bit more in the third segment, but let's just kind of look at what the Sharks have on the books going into the offseason and who's kind of expected to be around. So looking at the Sharks cap situation. So for the 25-26 season, they are projected to have a cap hit right now of $54,979,168. That's a projected cap space of $40.52 million. I guess $40,520,832 to be more project. Like, that's where they're at, with an active roster of 20 of 23. Not all the people on the Sharks roster will be on the Sharks roster next year, right? Especially right now, where you have a lot of call-ups, et cetera, right now. So, but let's start by looking at who's actually going to be here, who's at least on the books for next season. So, looking at the forward group, guys who are expected to be under contract. You have Logan Couture, who's on IR. And let's just get this out of the way. Like, Logan Couture is going to be on the books, probably under IR for the remainder of his career. So Couture has 25-26 season, 26-27 season, where he's getting paid $8 million. Also has a 3-team approved no trade list. Nobody's trading for Logan Couture. Again, Logan Couture is probably not playing hockey again. So, and I can already just waive him, just get rid of him, cut him. One, hockey contracts don't work that way. You can't just cut him, can't just get rid of him. Two, as we'll discuss in the third segment, you need his contract to get to the salary cap floor. Spoiler, the Sharks aren't even close to being compliant, right? To be into the salary cap floor, and they're going to have to spend some money. So Couture is just going to hang around, get it paid, and the Sharks will happily pay him his $8 million, as they need again, need to get close to that salary cap floor. So going on, you have Tyler Toffoli under contract next year for $6 million. That'll be year 2 out of 4 for his $6 million contract with a no trade clause next season, right? We don't expect Tyler Toffoli to be anywhere. Alex Wenberg next. He is going to be into the last year of his 2-year contract at $5 million. He does have a 15-team trade list going into next season. So he goes from a no trade clause this year to a 15-team trade clause next year. Smart business for both sides, as Wenberg can kind of stay here for the season, and then next year could be a potential piece for the Sharks to move at the deadline, as if they want to. He wants to go to a contender, but conversation for a different day. Barracuda is next. He is on the books for $3.641, $667 million contract for this. That'll be so he'll have 2 years left going to this offseason. So he'll be the same thing with like Escator, where his contract will end in 26-27 season. So next you have Carl Grundstrom. Look how quickly the Sharks drop down when it goes to like actual like your 5th highest paid forward is Carl Grundstrom at $1.8 million. Like that's how quickly this thing drops off for the Sharks. So Grundstrom, he'll be in the last year of his deal at 1.8. Ty Dellandrea also in the last year of his deal at 1.3 going into next offseason. Grundstrom will be a UFA afterwards. Ty Dellandrea will be a RFA with arbitration rights in the 26-27 season. Then you get into basically all the children here, right? Children and then veterans. So, but from the children, Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, both are going to be in year 2 of their ELC, along with Cam Lund. And Colin Graff will be in the last year of his ELC. So all those guys, right, not going anywhere. And then William Macklin will be in the last year of his ELC. We'll get to him in a little bit as well. Zach Ostapchuk and Patrick Giles. So Ostapchuk also in the last year of his ELC going into this off season, and then Patrick Giles will be he's also under contract next year at the vet min of $775,000. So shifting over to the defense, Marc-Edouard Vlasic under contract for $7 million. That will actually be the last year. Marc-Edouard Vlasic entering the last year of his contract. He has a 3-team no trade list. Mario Ferraro also entering the last year of his contract. Timothy Liljegren entering the last year of his contract. So all these guys will be UFAs after their 25-26 season. Vincent Desharnais as well, UFA, entering the last year of his deal at $2 million. So all these guys expected to be back next year. Henry Thrun will be entering last year of his deal as $1 million contract. He will be an RFA with arbitration rights in the 26-27 season. Then you have Luca Cagnoni in the second year of his deal, his ELC, and then Lucas Carlson will be entering the last year of his deal on a 2-way contract. If you've seen that little 2-way thing there, that's basically meaning that he can, that they can, if they go down to the AHL, they get paid a little bit more type of thing. So doesn't mean that their waivers exempt. It just means that they get paid a little bit more when they go down to the AHL. So, and then of course you have Yaroslav Askarov, who is actually the only goalie under contract for the San Jose Sharks next season. So they will have to spend some money on a goalie somewhere or so. But as you can see, right, the Sharks have a fair amount of people on the roster right now, but some of these people we can, kind of project to be guys who may start the season or maybe AHL guys, right? Most of the four, like we know Celebrini, we know Smith are both going to be in the NHL. William Eklund is no longer waivers exempt, but a guy like Cameron Lund, who's on the books right now, he probably starts the season next year in the AHL. Maybe a guy like Patrick Giles starts, is probably more of a AHL player anyway. Maybe he probably kind of starts the season with the Barracuda next year as well. So, and even, on the defense, right? That one's a little bit more like Luca Cagnoni. Like there's an easy path to see Luca Cagnoni starting next season in the AHL and then kind of being a mid-season call-up where he stays up. But that's conversations for a different day. So, but yeah, it's like you see where one, like the Sharks don't have a lot of people signed for very long. Tyler Toffoli is the longest actually like player signed. He's the only player signed for 27, 28. And like Celebrini and Smith and Eklund, like those guys will be here, but just guys who are actually signed. Tyler Toffoli is the only guy on the books for the 27-28 season. Other contract things to kind of keep in mind is the buyouts and the retained. So buyouts, Martin Jones will still be on the books next year for at 1.6 million, and Nikolai Kanizhov will also be on the books for a little under $500,000. Retained, the Brent Burns contract comes off the books this offseason, so the Sharks will actually open up a retainment slot on July 1st. And then Erik Karlsson will have 2 years left at 1.5 million, and then Tomas Hertl will continue to be on the books at 1.387, $1,387,500 through the 2028 season. So, through that season. So, the books are getting much, much cleaner than they were even a couple seasons ago, thanks Mike Grier. So we're going to talk about who needs a new contract. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at how much money does Mike Grier actually have to spend this offseason. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee. But I got tired of selling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade, and let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee making marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees. Sign me up for that job. Curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. The first bag was a game changer. It had such a smooth, rich flavor. I could actually taste the difference from my usual coffee. Subscription makes it easy. No more last-minute grocery store runs or settling for whatever's on the shelf. If you don't love your first bag, no worries. Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order. drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. All right, before we continue, we look at, again, who needs a new contract. Do, of course, want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done with this episode, go check out one of the other great shows here at the Locked On Network. Of course, you have Locked On NHL, where we cover the biggest stories in the NHL. You also have anything here in the Bay Area, right? Locked On Warriors, Locked On Niners, Locked On A's, Locked On Giants. Plenty of stuff here at the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. Okay, who needs a new contract? So let's start by looking at, actually, it's everybody here. So among the forwards, Noah Gregor, Klim Kostin, and Nikolai Kovalenko are all in need of a new contract. All these guys are RFAs with arbitration rights. So arbitration rights, basically, as a reminder, or if you don't know, basically they can go to a third party. Each of them can argue what they think they're worth. They usually kind of bring some sort of precedence, and then an arbitrator will say, this is how much you get paid, and that's it. So they usually try to find a middle ground. Very rarely does it actually get to arbitration. Most of the time they kind of find a middle ground. Sometimes teams will use arbitration as a way to kind of, if you need a second buyout window, sometimes teams will take a player to arbitration to open up a second buyout window for another move. But of these guys, Klim Kostin, I actually don't see getting a new contract. He's a player who so his qualifying offer would be $2.2 million, which isn't too bad going into next year, but I don't think he's really stuck this year. And I kind of don't see the Sharks retaining his rights. Noah Gregor, I would thank you for your services. Noah Gregor part 2. Good luck out there. I would not even I wouldn't think about it. Nikolai Kovalenko. So his qualifying offers, again, it's very small at $813,750. He's also going to be 26. And you also have only X amount of roster spots. So he's a guy. Ooh, the Barracuda just scored. I have the Barracuda game up at the same time. Anyway, he's a guy who I would think about. But if they don't, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. So, looking at the defense here, so you have defensively, you have Jan Ruda. Thank you for your services, Jan Ruda. We're okay. Shakir Mukhamadullin, 100% getting a new contract from the Sharks. So Mukhamadullin, he is going to be getting he's expected for his not an R, he's just an RFA, so he can't go and kind of fight for his rights to party. So his qualifying offer is $874,000. I would, if I had to guess right now, I would expect he kind of gets like a Henry Thrun type of deal of 2 years at $1 million or something like that. So nothing too crazy expensive, but something kind of where you can kind of maybe turn it around here in a year or two and try to get a bigger contract. Among the goalies, Alexander Gorgiev, UFA. Again, thank you for your services. I think the Sharks will be looking for another goalie to back up Askarov. Georgi Romanov is an RFA with arbitration rights. Same thing, his is going to be a cheap contract. I would definitely re-sign Gorgiev to him. Him and Gabe Carrier, who also will be an RFA with arbitration rights this offseason. I would definitely re-sign both those guys and have those guys as your kind of your tandem with the Barracuda. That would be what I do. But again, who knows? As I said before, I'm just an idiot. So, but I do like both those guys. I think both those guys have shown enough where, Carrier has been excellent for the Sharks or for the Barracuda since he's arrived for them this season. And I think the same thing with Gorgiev. With Gorgiev Romanov, I would have those two guys be your 1A, 1B. They can kind of figure it out for the Barracuda. So, among the young players, the guys who are not on the rosters, there is a fair amount of Barracuda guys who are going to be in need of a contract. So I'll just kind of run through all those guys really quickly. Scott Sabrin and Colin White are both UFAs. I think Sabrin might kind of get phased out here. Colin White, I can see them maybe keep around. Again, these are mostly going to be Barracuda type of players. And then Walker Dewar, I would 100% re-sign Walker Dewar. He's been excellent for the Barracuda. And then if you need him to kind of come up and play a couple games here and there in the NHL, do that as well. But I would definitely try to get him on a two-way deal so he gets paid a little bit more of an incentive for him to re-sign. So Pavel Regenda will be a UFA as well because the group's he hasn't played enough NHL games. I would also try to re-sign him to a two-way deal. I like both those guys with the Barracuda. They've been big additions, and I think they would really help out, especially with the players expected to join the Barracuda this offseason. So RFA-wise, among the forwards, Thomas Bordeaux, RFA with arbitration rights. Daniel Gushin, Brandon Coe, RFA with arbitration rights. Mitchell Russell, Nolan Burke, and Carl Berglund, RFA with arbitration rights. Gushin and Bordeaux, I'm 100% re-signing. The other guys, I think the Brandon Coe ship has sailed. The other guys, if you don't re-sign him, it's not me skin off my teeth there. Among the defense for the Barracuda, Jack Thompson is an RFA. Easily resign him. And then Jimmy Schultz is a UFA. I'm again 100% trying to re-sign Jimmy Schultz. He has been he's a Barracuda's captain. He's been their leader. And if you want to, you're going to have more young defensemen on there. I'm 100% trying to re-sign him to the Barracuda. So Yeah, so those are all the players who need contracts, at least going into this offseason. So we will look at how much money the Sharks have to spend, how much money they have to spend going into this offseason, and big long-term contracts, we'll call it. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. If you need to hire because you realize your business needs someone right now, how can you find amazing candidates fast? Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your posts at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates fast. If you've ever been in the spot where you need to hire like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, before we finish up, I just want to remind you, if you haven't, perfect time to subscribe, especially if you're watching on YouTube. We have plenty of great stuff coming up here at Locked On Sharks. We have a fun interview that's scheduled. Probably will be out early next week. Of course, we'll continue our draft coverage. We have a ton, as you're listening now in free agency. Sharks are going to have a lot of freedom to do whatever they want in free agency. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. So, okay. So we know the Sharks, they have $54 million scheduled in free agency. Most of the guys that they need to re-sign, right, are not expected to kind of break the bank. You know, you look at guys like Muka Madulin or Jack Thompson, or like none of these guys are really expected to kind of be big time contracts for you. So let's start with the one kind of contract that will be coming up. And starting on July 1st, William Eklund will be eligible to sign his next extension. As a reminder, like starting July 1st, you can start signing contracts going, you're basically in the last year of your contract and you can sign an extension. So William Eklund can sign an extension July 1st, 2025. That would kick in for the 26-27 season. Keep that in mind. It kicks in the 26-27 season. He doesn't, that doesn't affect your cap space for the 25-26 season. So I'm very curious to see how Mike Grier handles this contract, as he is kind of considered that first big piece. Does he, take the route that we saw with like Doug Wilson would do with guys like Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl, right, where you sign him to maybe that bridge deal, or it's like a 4-year deal, kind of middle of the market type of thing? Or do you go the route that you see teams going now, like teams like the Sens and like you see a lot of these teams where they sign these young players to these long-term extensions, knowing that, you're going to sign him, you're going to lock him up for 7-8 years. And then when he hits basically 30, you're going to have to, kind of re-up him for a new contract. Then I'm very curious. I very much would be in the business to sign William Eklund as soon as possible, as long as possible, because again, I think William Eklund's very good at hockey. But so the Sharks, again, $54 million. The floor is 70.6. So they're going to have about $15.5 million that they have to spend. I did the math earlier. So, $15.7 million that they have to spend no matter what, just to get cap compliant, right? With $40 million in total cap space. I don't think the Sharks spend $40 million in cap space because, one, you're probably going to tie up your cap resources for a while, and then you still, you have a Macklin Celebrini and a Will Smith contracts coming down the pike. Pike. I always said pipe. I know it's pike. Pipe just sounds better. More anyway. they're coming at some point in a couple of years, right? And you're going to have to kind of earmark money for them. And we do know the cap is going to be going up a lot over the next couple of seasons, right? But also when the cap goes up, contracts go up as well. So, but you're going to have to spend at least $15.7 million in cap space this offseason just to get cap compliant. And I mean, a better like you probably want to spend closer to $20 million just to get cap compliant. That way it gives you some flexibility. If somebody goes out, like you have to shuffle your roster a little bit. Like you don't want to be like having to pull out the calculator, making sure that you're cap compliant every day. Like you want to kind of spend a little bit over it, but still give yourself some cap space for the future. Or if you want to be, acquire someone take on a bad contract at the deadline, et cetera. It just gives you more flexibility and freedom to do what you want. So I think the Sharks will be aggressive this offseason. And we're going to have plenty of time this offseason to figure out how much they have to, who they're going to spend that money on. But again, the Sharks don't really have anybody of note who needs a contract extension, right? Like, are you ready to sign Shakir Mukhamadullin up for a long-term extension? Maybe, but I would rather kind of go the Thrun route with him. I would actually I'd rather play kind of the bridge game with Shakir Mukhamadullin, where if you do have to send him to a short-term deal and then you kind of figure out like a deal after that, like that's fine. I'm not in the business to lock up Shakir Mukhamadullin long-term right now. I think he's played well. He's also, he's played less than 50 NHL games right now. I'm not ready to lock him up right now long term. So, and you're right. None of your other like young goalies are going to be, none of those guys are kind of long-term extension guys. And all your forwards like Kovalenko and Klim Kostin, none of those guys I think are worth signing long-term big money extensions. So Mike Grier is going to have his work cut out for him this offseason to sign some players, right? Mike Grier has to sign players just to get cap compliant. And that's even with $15 million from Vlasic and Logan Couture combined. Even if Vlasic is your seventh defenseman next year, and Logan Couture is just hanging out, going and rehabbing, and like that's $15 million that is keeping you from right. If you took that $15 million off, the Sharks would have to spend $30 million just to get cap, or I guess $35 million just to get cap compliance. So, yes, I do think the Sharks are going to sign some players. I also do think Mike Grier is going to be really smart, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and he tries to get a big fish. That this is my kind of my vision for Mike Grier is he tries to get a big fish, right? And whatever that big fish is, if it's a top 6 forward or it's a top 4 defenseman, I'm rooting for the top 4 defenseman. He goes out and tries to get one of those gets a big fish, and he signs some other players to Foley / Wenberg type of deals, where it's kind of middle of the market, 2 to 3 years. We'll give you some trade protection so you're not going anywhere for the next couple seasons, and then loosen things up in that last season. So if things are going the way we expect them to, we can, maybe send you to a team that is going to be competing, or it just kind of gives you some flexibility. So that's kind of what I expect Mike Grier to do. So, but yeah, again, overall, the Sharks cap space, right? We have gone from, even in the lifetime of this podcast, right? I've been doing this for 5 years now. Of Sharks have $8 million in cap space this offseason, and we need a whole new third line to the Sharks have to spend $15.7 million in cap space just to be cap compliant this year. So, I don't think the way Mike Grier has turned this thing around and really opened up and given the Sharks so much flexibility, and it has to be commended, especially when you look at that Puckpedia page. It's a beautiful thing, especially when you see those draft picks and all those ELC contracts. The Sharks are going to be, I think, very busy this offseason. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back, of course, later today, probably about 2-ish or so. You'll have a game preview for the Leafs Sharks game. Then we'll have a recap for that, of course, tonight. So plenty of great stuff coming in here at Locked On Sharks. Make sure you are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.